The Yogumunt Workshop of Brilliant Lights drops very important materials like amazing cores and the new remnant power shards, which is why today I'll be guiding you on how to easily beat it. So let's kick things off with the very first boss in this workshop being the Enchanting Apex Bedelia. So this boss is played in Hunter mode and the gimmick involves it having a lot of lifesteal, so you're going to want to stop it from doing that, meaning the water team of Sorine, Maylin and the Pure Sword Princess Charhain are going to be the best team for you to use because the new Charhain does have the ability to stop HP recovery abilities. But also the boss does also apply a debuff which is called Bewilder, and what this essentially does is basically it will stack 5 times during the fight, which is visible through the hearts at the bottom of the screen, and once it has actually fully stacked, the boss will use a skill dealing lots of damage whilst also healing a ton of HP, so you're going to want to prevent her from doing this, and the way you do this is basically just through swapping in and out between your hunters in order for you to remove that Bewilder debuff that you do have. But an annoying thing about this boss is she does disappear quite a lot, so a lot of your skills may miss, which again is why the brand new Charhain is very, very good, because through her A2 she can actually paralyze. And then your goal in this fight is obviously going to be to break the boss and then have your Sorine apply her debuff and then your Maylin apply her buffs and also debuff as well. So then you can bring in your Charhain to do her skill rotation for the maximum damage output. Then also around 40% of the boss's HP she will then also summon these clots, and what you will need to do is just to break the biggest one in order to put her into the break state again, but be careful because the targeting with these can be a little bit weird, so it can get quite frustrating at times. But then her final gimmick is when she's on pretty low HP, she will start to use a powerful attack, and in order for you to stop her from doing this, what you'll need to do is either stun her in some way, which you obviously can do with your Charhain, or instead just to avoid the damage that you'll take from it, you can just use a Hunter's QTE skill to stop it from damaging you, and pretty much from then on you should be good to win the fight. And after beating the first boss, it'll bring you on to your very first blessing stage, and this stage is just like any other normal blessing stage where you have 5 different waves of enemies, and after beating waves 1, 3 and 5 you get to choose between blessings to power you up, and with there being lots of enemies, hunters like Sorine are going to be very, very good for this stage thanks to her high amounts of AoE damage, because there is a lot of enemies for you to beat with them being spread quite far across the whole entire stage, so it's going to be very, very annoying. And when it comes to selecting your blessings for this Workshop of Brilliant Lights, I'd recommend focusing on choosing blessings that can benefit both your Jinwoo and also your water team at the very same time, assuming that is your preferred team of choice, because your Charhain and also your Jinwoo do scale off of different stats with their damage. So for example, if you got a defense percent blessing, that wouldn't really help your Jinwoo out too much, but obviously it will help out your Charhain, which is why we do want to go for stuff like basic skill damage or just anything else like your crit stats, ult damage, all of that kind of stuff is going to be very, very good. So moving on, let's talk about the very second boss, and this is going to be the Soul Executioner Davorka, and for this boss you'll be playing in the player mode as Sung Jinwoo obviously, as opposed to the hunter mode, and for your Jinwoo's very best setup is going to be the wind focus setup, so this is going to involve you using the Demon King's daggers as your main DPS weapon, and you'll want to be pairing that up with Stormbringer for not only its huge amount of damage as well, but mainly its debuffs it does apply, which will make those 2 your best weapons. But when the new Water Scythe does come out on the 22nd, the water setup will be very, very good and possibly even better. Then for your Jinwoo skills, you want to focus on high damage output wind element skills, because this boss doesn't have a break meter, so you don't really need to break it, but break skills such as Vacuum Wave and Breach are still very good for their debuffs they apply. And then especially, of course, skills like Wind Shroud are amazing for its damage and buffs, and even High Speed Rotation is good, with Ice Strike and Thunderstorm being your best QTE skills for this fight. And finally, for Blessing Stones, these empowerment ones are all very good for you to use. So then for the actual gimmicks for this fight, the boss also does actually have lifesteal, just like the first one, which will make the new Charhain a great support skill option because she does have her unrecoverable debuff, but also even the regular light Charhain does also have the unrecoverable debuff through her support skill, so either one will be fine, both are very, very good. And then for your final support hunters, you can use just anyone that is going to buff your damage a lot, such as Maylin, Akari, Libora, Isla, Min Byung-gu, and even the likes of Goto and Sorine, because their damage buffs they apply once an enemy is broken are really powerful, and yes, this boss can actually be broken, but it is done through different methods. As the first time you'll break the boss will be once you've absorbed 5 spheres that do match the color of the eye above the boss, which will then of course break it, meaning you can do a lot of damage. And then the second way will be when you have moved to the zone that matches the color of the eye above the boss 3 times, and this is interchanging, and I believe it does cover all 3 of the eye colors, so it's pretty easy, which is then everything you pretty much need to know about this boss fight, aside from the fact that of course before doing a lot of damage with your DK daggers, you'll want to apply all of your other skills debuffs. When it comes to the second and final blessing stage of this Workshop of Brilliant Lights, this is actually a boss stage where after beating the said boss you will get 1 empowerment powered blessing for you to use as opposed to getting 3. So in this fight, re-rolling for your preferred blessing will be very, very important because this stage will give you some very, very important buffs for you to utilize in the upcoming main boss fight. So then let's talk about the main event boss being the Yogumunt boss fight, and the first time you fight him, you'll be using Jinwoo. So what you'll want to use is going to be a similar setup from the first boss that you fight as Jinwoo, but this time with the Yogumunt boss having a break meter, you will definitely want to bring some break skills like Vacuum Wave or Breach and even Squall, the QTE skill, as well as a hunter like Sorin or Goto who can definitely help you break him. And what is really unique when using your Sorin is that when you do break an enemy whilst you have her support skill on cooldown, it will actually reset it, meaning you can just use it again for even more damage. So she gives your Jinwoo a lot more value outside of the buffs that she does apply. But then when it comes to the boss himself, and what he does is instead of having the lifesteal effects like the other 2 previous bosses have, he just instead just uses skills that will heal himself, making the Charhane once again a fantastic hunter for you to have, and especially on your support skill for this fight. And as well, he'll have this phase where he'll create a black hole with planets surrounding it, and this is very easy because all you have to do is just run out of its range, whilst of course avoiding the planets, because if you don't, you'll then be stunned and then you'll be sort of vulnerable to be taking a lot of damage. So just make sure you're doing that, which will then bring you onto the part of the fight where he'll grab you and he'll take you into another dimension. And in order for you to escape the dimension to stop him from healing, all you have to do is just run to the other side whilst also avoiding all of the moving blocks that are coming towards you, and that is pretty much it. So again, it's very simple, very easy. And once you have then escaped the dimension that he does put you in, you'll then need to destroy the splintered fragment that he does create in order for you to put him into the break state again. So of course you'll want to destroy it as quickly as you possibly can in order for you to deal as much damage to him as soon as possible. But finally, there will be one last time where you can then put him into the break state again, and you'll know when this is happening based on when he'll actually summon a lot of enemies around you. And once he's done that, he will then begin to use his reincarnation skill, and that is when you'll need to break him as fast as possible to stop him from using that said skill, which will be the final sort of gimmick he has, and also the final time you get to put him into the break state. So from that point on, you're just pretty much just free to fight him and try and do as much damage as possible and beat him as quickly as you can. So yeah, for the Sung Jin-woo side of things, that's pretty much everything you need to know. And for the hunter side of things, everything you'll do in the Jinwoo fight, you'll pretty much just do here, as nothing really in the fight does change, aside from the fact that when Yogumunt does actually create the black hole, you don't really need to move out of its range, because I'm pretty sure you can just use a QTE skill to avoid the stun effects that he does apply. So you can just do that. It'll be very free and very easy. And of course, as always, just make sure you're applying all of your Sorin's debuffs and your Meiling's buffs, debuffs, etc., just the normal stuff, and then hopefully you'll be able to pretty easily beat the Yogumunt Workshop of Brilliant Lights. So there you have it. That is a complete guide to the brand new Yogumunt Workshop of Brilliant Lights, and I really hope it did help you all. And of course, if you did enjoy this video or you just found it useful in general, then don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, I will see you all in the next video. Peace!